बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम रब्बि इश्रह ली सदरी व यस्सिर ली अमरी वहलुल उक़दतम मिन लिसानी यफ़क़हू क़ौली. In the name of Allah, let's start new chapter, chapter number 6, which is chemical reactions. So class, what kind of topics we are going to discuss in this lesson? Chemical equations and their balancing, types of chemical reactions, energy changes that are done during the chemical reactions, and then lastly we are going to discuss about chemical bonds. So class, as you can see here, something is burning, a chemical change, or you can say a simple change is going on. Wood is burning and it is converting back into ashes, and energy is being produced, and wood is reacting with oxygen which is present excessively in atmosphere, and something is also going to be released. What is that? That is actually carbon dioxide gas. So let us discuss this change in the light of chemical reactions. So what are chemical reactions? Actually, atoms present in the different substances rearrange themselves. How can we explain this statement? We can explain this statement by explaining burning of coal. As you can see, the carbon is like the wood is mainly carbon, right? And the oxygen in the atmosphere is going to be reacted with the carbon, right? So actually the oxygen before present was in this arrangement and carbon was in this arrangement. The atoms rearranged themselves like this: carbon, double bond oxygen, and double bond oxygen. The atoms have rearranged themselves in this way. We can say that a chemical reaction occur. And as we can see, the substances which are reacting together, carbon and oxygen, these two are reactants, and the substances which are being produced in this reaction are called products. Now the question arises, how can we explain chemical reactions? How can we represent chemical reactions? So to represent chemical reactions, we use chemical equations. Chemical equations are actually the representation of chemical reactions. They can be represented in terms of symbols, formulae, and signs. We can explain chemical equations by taking an example of sulfur and oxygen, which are reacting together to produce sulfur dioxide. Sulfur is actually sulfur, which can be represented in terms of a symbol S. Oxygen is represented in terms of a symbol O2. And then sulfur dioxide, the resultant formula, the formula of the product will be SO2. And then sulfur and oxygen are reactants because they are reacting together and producing a product which is sulfur dioxide. And one more thing in this equation is noticeable, which is state symbols, which are given in the subscript form G. As you can see, G is written in the subscript of sulfur and oxygen and sulfur dioxide. The G is actually representing the state of these reactants and products. So G stands for gas, and there can be other state symbols like L. L stands for liquid, like S. S stands for solid, and like AQ. AQ stands for aqueous solution, right? Then we are going to discuss about the types of chemical reactions. So simply here the types which are given, these are the four types. Number one is combination reaction. Combination reaction is that reaction in which two substances react together, like for example A plus B, they react together to produce a new substance which is a combination product of the reacting substances. Then there comes decomposition reaction. Decomposition reaction involves in which two or three substances were present together and they are heated and then they break and then two new substances are produced. This is called as decomposition reaction. And then the third one, displacement reaction. Displacement reaction, what happens in this reaction? For example, a reactant is given BC. This is a compound. Then what happens, there will come another substance, for example A. It will take the position of that B in that compound, so the resultant compound will not be C, it will be AC. Means that one substance have came and it took the position of another substance in the compound. This will be called as displacement reaction. Let's talk about the double displacement reaction. What happens in double displacement reaction? There comes two compounds. One compound with the two elements AB, another compound with the two elements C and D. Now A will take the position of C and C will take the position of A. AB will become CB, right? And ACD will become AD. So it means that these two substances has exchanged their positions, have displaced each other. So that's why we are saying that this is called as double displacement reactions. Then, of course, during the chemical reactions, energy change occurs. That energy change can be in the form of absorbance of heat, or that can be in the form of release of heat. So let's talk about endothermic reactions. Endothermic reactions are those reactions, students, in which heat is absorbed from the surrounding. We can take the example of photosynthesis. As you can see here, the sunlight is coming to the leaves. Leaves absorb sunlight in excessive amount, like heat is absorbing from the surrounding, and then they carry out the process of photosynthesis. And then there comes exothermic reactions, in which heat is released to the surrounding. Like in this reaction, the reaction goes on and heat is released to the surrounding. We can take the example of, as you can see, burning here. The chemical reaction goes on. Oxygen reacts with the carbon of the coal, or oxygen reacts with the carbon of the wood, and then what happens? The heat is released to the surrounding, the energy is released to the surrounding. So these are called as exothermic reactions. In endothermic reactions, heat is absorbed, and in exothermic reactions, heat is released. Then we are going to study about chemical bonds. What are chemical bonds, class? Chemical bonds are those bonds which attach atoms together, which attach elements together, and elements attach with each other, elements bond with each other to form complex compounds. So we can see here in your chapter, two kind of chemical bonds are given. Number one, ionic bond, and number two is covalent bond. Let's discuss about ionic bond first. So what is ionic bond? As you can see here in this diagram, two substances are there. One substance is giving its particle to another substance, like donating its particle to another substance, completely giving. So we can explain ionic bond in terms of taking the example of sodium and chlorine. As we can see here, sodium is having 11 electrons in it, 2, 8 and 1, and it is having one extra electron, and sodium wants to donate this electron to attain stability. And if we look at the chlorine is having 17 electrons in it. Chlorine needs one extra electron because it is having a space of one electron in it. So sodium will completely transfer its electron to the chlorine, and as a result of that, there will be the deficiency of one electron in sodium atom, and so it will have a positive charge on it, and there will be addition of one electron in chlorine atom. As a result of that, it will get -1 charge on it. As a result of that, we can see here there will be an ionic bond between sodium and chloride ions, sodium ions having positive charge and chlorine ion having negative charge, and this will be the ionic bond. Let's discuss about covalent bond. What happens in covalent bond? As you can see here, two substances are sitting and they are sharing their electrons. Both are sharing their electrons, or we cannot mention the term of electron here. We can say that both are sharing their particles, sharing their materials. Let's discuss this example, discuss the covalent bond in terms of a example in which an atom A is present and an atom B is present. Atom A is having 7 electrons in its outermost shell, and atom B is also having 7 electrons in its outermost shell. Atom B have the deficiency of 1 electron, atom A have the deficiency of 1 electron. So what will happen here? They both will decide to share their electrons with each. So as we can see here, they are sharing their 2 electrons. These 2 electrons they are sharing with each other, and these 2 electrons now are the part of both B and also A. So in this case we can see that the atoms are sharing their electrons. So this sharing of electrons is actually called as covalent bond. Okay, so that's all for this chapter, class. Allah Hafiz.